the last time you were on, we were talking mainly, drink New York craft, and since then, now you've got and started Third Space Distribution.
Correct.
Yeah, so now you're selling it to the consumers and to the restaurants.
We're full exposure.
That's wild.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know talk about and ask me, they're like, "How does he have that license? Because isn't that like incredibly difficult to have both?"
Yeah, it's called a C license, and it's kind of cool because it enables us to act as both a wholesaler as well as a retailer. So we're acting as two of the three tiers in the three-tier system. The three-tier system being wholesalers, I'm sorry, suppliers, wholesalers, then retailers. So we're able to act as a wholesaler and a retailer. So Drink NY Craft is the direct to consumer, the retailer portion of it, and Third Space Distribution is the wholesale piece of it. It is a little confusing because those are two different brands, but they are one in the same license, one in the same company. It just enables us to act as both. We want to be able to, get full exposure, as I just mentioned.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, speaking of beer, you brought some.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got this one from Big Alice Brewing, which I've never been out to before or had their beers before. But yeah, excited to jump into this one. A little Pilsner.
Big Alice actually started in Long Island City, which is the Alice, the ALIC, Long Island City. They started out there, and they actually just opened up a production facility in Geneva. So these guys are flying under the radar, and in my opinion, and with this new production facility, they're going to be able to make product and actually get it out there. They're not just a tasting room anymore. So we are excited to have these guys and get them out into the masses. So
That's awesome.
if you see it out there, get after it because it's really good.
Yeah, this is a great beer. I just had a couple sips, and yeah, it's solid for sure. So, what's it been like? Well, so you've had the direct to consumer for what, 2 years now?
It's been about a year and a half, yeah.
Year and a half. And I mean, how's that been going? Like, how's the marketplace in New York accepted that?
It's going well. So we basically ship all over New York State. So our target consumer is pretty much anyone with a New York State address. So it's pretty extensive. And with that comes a lot of things like digital marketing. So I'm not a digital marketer, so I think we could improve upon our message that goes out there. But it's been well received. Those customers that do know who we are, they come back for more. And we do have a solid core customer. I would like to see sales a little better, but right now it is doing pretty well. It enables us to kind of get the foot in the door for a lot of the suppliers that we're hoping that come on for Third Space as well. It's kind of an easy avenue for a brewery like say Big Alice to kind of, hey, let's just try this D2C thing, and then they get a relationship with us. They see that we can move beer for them. They get to know me and my team a little more, and then maybe they're down for the what I call traditional retail. So it's a dual purpose for our business, and so far so good.
So what side of the business do you like better? Do you like the direct to consumer, or do you like more of the distribution?
That's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. I would maybe put on the spot here. I'd probably say the D2C, probably Drink NY Craft. It kind of brings me back to my roots. I got my degree back in the day in computer science, and I used to build websites, e-commerce websites for larger corporations. And at one point, I even sold spring break packages to high school and college kids. I was at studentcity.com, I think that was. So it kind of brings me back. So my career's kind of gone full circle with being on the website of things. I started a hop farm, and now we're doing the distribution. So the website kind of brings it full circle. So that's I guess what I'm good at. That's my wheelhouse, and it's been fun. But both provide unique challenges, and they're completely different. They're two completely different businesses, which is why we branded them separately.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the distribution side of things is, to me, seems like the most exciting, just because I don't know, it feels like an easier sale, to like go out there and sell somebody like a restaurant or a bar to bring on, more unique craft breweries. because I feel like they're more inclined to be like, yeah, sure, I'll take a keg, or I'll add that tap handle for a little bit, because they have to commit to like what 30 beers, right? So
Yeah.
at the minimum. I don't know. I think that to me that seems like an easier sale than it does trying to sell somebody like a 12 pack or a 4 pack or
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, it's actually singles. So when you're out
Oh,
shopping
really?
at DNYC, a lot of people buy singles. They'll come on their first time, they'll pick out a couple singles. They'll try this Big Alice Pills and 20 other beers, and then when they come back, they pick and choose those ones that they actually like. They actually buy more. So it's singles. So yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
the volume is not necessarily there. So
Yeah.
with the traditional retail, there's definitely more volume. There's more potential for the business there. But I do think the D2C side is important, not only for the relationships, but just to build awareness and just to get the beers out. I mean, our main goal is really to get New Yorkers to drink more New York beer. That's really what our main focus is, and we really need both of those channels to be able to accomplish that.
Do you have have you developed this like exceptional relationship with the New York State Brewers Association? Is that like really
We've been
important?
working with them a lot. I don't know if I'd go as far as calling us official partners, but we do work with each other a lot. I think it's a match made in heaven, to be honest with you, because they have a huge following. They have people that are really engaged in New York State craft beer, and we have the exact same missions, like to get New Yorkers to drink more New York beer. That is both of our missions. So we're still trying to figure out what it is, the overlap. I think, the Brewers Association will be doing like a Christmas box and things like that we'll be able to do for them.
That's cool.
So we're still trying to figure out that whole, relationship. But yes, they've been super supportive of us. We hope we've been super supportive of them. I go to the New York State
Yeah.
Craft Brewers Conference every single year, so I try to support them as much as possible. I, shop with their allies. It's a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, that's cool. It's yeah, I mean the craft beer industry to me is really interesting. Obviously I work for Willow Rock, and we've got a lot of local breweries that are on the local New York card, and a few in Rochester and here in Syracuse. And it's such an interesting industry to me, because it feels like I don't see any of the marketing ever, and even like the stuff that we do to stay on brand for Willow Rock, none of it's really ever like party culture. And not that you're like you should be constantly trying to advertise to the sororities and fraternities and that kind of stuff,
Right.
and hey, come get blackout with Congress.
Yeah.
But none of it really ever talks about, hey, this is a product you're going to get drunk with. I was thinking about that this week because Flintstone just opened up, and like, how do they advertise? Because
Right.
you're consuming marijuana, something that unless you're taking very small quantities of, you're going to get fucked up.
Yeah. Flintstone.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do they, so I've just noticed that with like craft breweries, none of them really talk about, hey, come have 4 of our beers and
Well,
sleep easier.
that's probably a good thing, but we don't ever want to really promote drunkenness. But
For sure.
for me, it's really flavor, and today your listeners don't know this, but it's really nice and hot outside. So I brought a bunch of nice, light,
Yeah.
drinkable beer. So this one, what is the ABV in this?
5%. 5.8.
Yeah, 5.8. I can't say.
5.6. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's for me, it's flavor. You always
Yeah.
get those double IPAs. You get the actually Willow Rock has a
I know.
20%
Yeah, they have
barley
that.
wine. So there are the occasional persons that come out and they say, "Hey, what's your highest ABV?" And we can say, "Oh, Willow Rock 20%." And they can go home with one of those. But for the most part, it's really just what we do. Our marketing message is just this is local. Your dollars are staying local.
Yeah.
It's flavorful beer. If you this whole Bud Light debacle that's going on right now, there's a lot of market potential for nice light beers like these. So those are more of our message as opposed to get hammered. But everyone, you get all types, man. You get all types.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicole and I were just up there trying their Spooky Canoe release at Willow Rock, which is a 7% double IPA. And
Wow. Okay.
I can't take those beers anymore, as I'm getting older. I just, they're.
Well, 16 ounces is good for 2.
Yeah.
They're great, but you can split it for 2.
Yeah.
That's what I like doing, especially with those larger ones. You get a nice taste. You can have a few of them and still make it home that night.
Yeah, for sure. So what made you want to jump in? I mean, I know that, you have or had a hop farm. You still have that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we are stringing. In fact, I got off the phone right before we got on the air here, trying to figure out how we're going to spray our plants today. Yeah.
So what made you want to get into this side of things? I mean, I understand, it's not too far of a leap, but
Oh.
jumping into distribution especially is quite a debacle.
It was a natural progression. So when I moved to Central New York, I was doing web development, as I mentioned. I was a computer geek. I came here. There wasn't really a lot of good jobs. This is what, 12 years ago now. So there weren't a lot of computer jobs around here. Now there are more, but back then there was pretty much nothing. Like I could build a website for mom and pop down the street, and that's just mind-numbingly boring. So I needed a career change. So I was like, well, what do people in Central New York do? People in Central New York have farms. Oh, there's a lot of agriculture here, a lot of dairy, and I'm not going to start a dairy farm because there's many of them, and they're multi-million-dollar companies with thousands of heads of cattle. Like,
Right.
nah. I'm like, well, I really like beer, so let's try our hand at hops. And back then, and this is 2013. I'm going back. There was some legislation passed that really, encouraged the growth of New York ingredients and hop farms. And by the way, this New York Pils right here is 100% New York ingredients. So
Oh, wow.
like things like this are the product of that legislation. So we kind of jumped on board with that. I started a hop, a small farm. We were living on about a 4-acre property. I planted about 50 plants, with like a proper trellis. That seemed to work well. I really liked it. So we wrote a business plan to go a little larger. We built a whole hop processing facility. We moved to a property with 140 acres. We don't have 140 acres of hops, but there's the potential. And kind of scaled that out a little bit. And it's through those relationships with those brewers that really opened my eyes up to the problems in distribution. And it doesn't necessarily work for all of the breweries. Especially the little ones, they have problems getting out in the market. A lot of them, their business models are, especially pre-COVID, selling beers over their tap room. Those are their best margins, but you can only get so far with that. That's a lifestyle business. So if you want to, grow up and be a little larger than that, then you're going to have to eventually get out into distribution. So through all my friends that are brewers, they started telling me about stories, I'm like, wow, that's kind of fucked up, man. It's like, I can't believe that's going down. So I thought there was something there. And I'm like, well, I'm just a hop farmer. I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm going to supply them, their hops. And then I started in the back, like, well, if I can sell more beer for them, they'll buy more hops from me. That was the original idea. I'm like, okay, there's maybe something here. And then COVID hit. And that changed everything. So it really presented a bunch of opportunities. A lot of people were like, well, let's sit back and hold and see what happens. We're like, we need to go full forward. Like, let's do this. And people were buying everything online. So I'm like, this is perfect. Like, I know e-commerce. I know this. So let's do it. So I already started the business plan prior to COVID, but that really accelerated everything. I don't think back in 2020, I was 100% prepared to actually launch it, but because of COVID, my wife encouraged me to kind of go out and do it anyway, and we led with Drink NY Craft, which is about a year and a half ago now, and the traditional retail has been about 6 months ago. So it took us a little more to get to that point, but it was really a progression that breweries kind of presented a need, and I think it's still a really big need, and that's something that we're trying to do for them and the beer community.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you're running into a lot of them, but I am more recently, and that is a lot of craft breweries are suffering so much right now, and have been for the last 5, 6, 7 months. Are you seeing that anywhere? Are you seeing that outside of like our immediate area? Are you seeing that in like Rochester or anywhere else that you're connected?
Yeah, that's pretty much countrywide. There's supply chain issues. There was aluminum issues. There's CO2 issues. I mean, I feel really bad for a lot of these guys because they're up against a lot.
Yeah.
And there's some people say that we haven't fully recovered from COVID. People aren't necessarily going back out that used to. So I see that a lot, and I think that's more of a need for us as well. You know, it's like if your business model relied 100% on selling pints over your bar,
Yeah.
and your patrons aren't necessarily coming back, you're going to need additional channels to sell your product. So that's kind of what we're offering. So yeah, it's hard. I at one point thought about doing a brewery. You know, we have some good land. It would be fun for people to come out there, kind of a destination thing. But there's 538 breweries in New York State right now. You know, it's like how do you stand out? So you really need, number one, you really need excellent liquid. So once you get there, then you can do a little marketing, like keep your bar tap room thing, but you need additional channels on top of that. And I was definitely seeing that, and that definitely played into the factor for us opening up our doors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I feel like breweries either have to be tiny or they have to be huge. You know, there's not really much space for the middle of the road, middle-sized brewery. You know, it's I don't see many people that really care a whole heck of a lot to say, you know what, I really want that brand's pale ale. I'm gonna go drive out of my way, inconvenience myself, and go hang out at that place just because they have the one pale ale that I want. I feel like people in general, they just go out and drink. Enough restaurants and bars carry such a wide variety of beers nowadays that you can pretty much go anywhere and find just about any flavor or any style that you want. Even if it's not your preferred brand, it'll do. And yeah, and I think just a lot of the craft breweries have kind of opened thinking we're going to create our fans who are going to love our beer and our beer only, and they're going to show up here, and there's just not enough of those people that exist.
You hit the nail on the head, man. That's exactly what we're doing. We are bridging the gap between local and regional. So that's exactly what I recognize. There's no one in the middle. You're either small or you're really big. And like, well, why is that? Because the little guy can't just get out and just go from 2 barrels to 60 barrels overnight. That's a major capital investment. And even if they did, they're going to want to start to self-distribute. And, then you're a distribution company. And, take my word from it, that's very hard to start a distribution company. So there's a huge gap in the middle. And that's exactly the role we're trying to fill. With that 538 breweries in New York State right now, that's the long tail. So we're taking that long tail. We're going to help that mom and pop, those lifestyle businesses, and we're going to help them grow. And if you have statewide ambitions, if you have countrywide ambitions, you need to start small and kind of grow up from there. So we're creating a niche that didn't really exist before. There are large corporate distribution companies that do a really great job. There, if you're one of these smaller producers and you're able to feed these guys and actually get your products out there, awesome. But there's a lot that can't and don't have the means. So that's a recommit. So we're not here to take over large distribution and change the world. We're here to fill a niche that hasn't been there before. So if a brewery comes on to us and we help them grow from lifestyle business to big boy business, and now you are the next Dogfish Head and you outgrow us, and we need to now give your brand over to one of the larger corporate distribution companies, great. Like that is awesome. Like that was our goal. So we would not be upset about that at all. We wouldn't try to hold on to them and hoard them and be like, no, you're ours. We need to. So you are grown up now, and it's time to set you free. So that's kind of our goal. I think is to kind of help grow these smaller breweries into something much larger, so that they can exist on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, large distribution can suck because, you can get tied in. You either become, even if you're their local craft push, you're still tied into the world of all the mega billion-trillion-dollar companies that are giving them an immense amount of money. So you're not going to be, first fiddle by any stretch of the imagination. And so you wind up just getting hidden, or they don't carry the freshest product or whatever the case is. or you have to sign some crazy contract, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I've heard the horror stories over the years of large, what it's like for a small local brewery to work with a large distributor, and I've never heard really great things about it.
I just imagine, like, you start out as like a home brewer, you and your buddies start brewing, all your friends talk, oh, you guys make great beer, you should go commercial. Like, okay. And then you start a brewery and you get a little momentum. People come into your tap room and you're like, okay, we need to take the next step and get into distribution. And you go into a large corporate distributor, you go into a big oak room, like people smoking cigars, and, three-piece suits, things like that. And it's like, well, we're a little bit out of our element here, So I think third space is a little more approachable, maybe. We started as a hop farm. Some people have heard of us before, so I think that kind of helps us. But yeah, I've heard the horror stories too, and that's exactly why I started this. Like, these guys don't have any other options. This is it. Like, you either go with one of these big guys, or you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And doing it yourself, you need time, you need resources, you need money, and that's just very hard. So collectively, we're a lot stronger. So again, the long tail, and if you're in a large corporate distribution portfolio, you might get lost.
Yeah.
They have a quota, and they have numbers that they need to meet with their, Bud and Coors Miller, whoever it is, where we don't have that. We don't have any of that. So if you're a brand and you're doing really well in our portfolio, you're going to be up top. You're not going to be second fiddle to Budweiser.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main difference between us and what they're doing.
Yeah. What are some of the bigger challenges that you face with the distribution company?
Most of it has been we carry brands that people haven't heard of before. So we go into a restaurant and they're like, yeah, we love local, we love craft. We're like, hey, here's our portfolio. We have all these brands. And like, well, I've never heard of any of these brands before. Our response to that is exactly. Do you want to carry the Fiddlehead and the Sloop Juice like everybody else in town? You get the same beers wherever you go.
Yeah.
That was one of the other reasons why I start this. It's the same beers wherever you go. So do you want an alternative? Do you want something that's a little different? And maybe it's even better. One of our brands, old Cloud Rock Brewing Company, out of the Hudson Valley, just won first place in the hazy, juicy category. They beat Sloop. So it was a blind, professionally judged contest. So these breweries do really well, and they're making really good beer. So do you want the same old, or do you want something a little different? You want to stand out above in the crowd? Then come with us. So that's kind of been the selling point. But a lot of it was like, yeah, I don't know any of these guys. I'm not really sure who they are. So we have a 92% return rate. So if a particular bar restaurant actually buys from us, 92% of the time they're going to place a second order. So
That's awesome.
I think that's a really good showcase of that we have some really good beer. So if people actually give us a try, we'll go in there with samples. A lot of times like, well, I don't know beer, I don't like beer. Well, find someone that does, please. But that's been probably the biggest hurdle is the brands we have are unknown, but that's also our niche. Let's rise these guys to the top.
Yeah. I learned last year because I'm a partner at the bar out at Abbott Farms, and so last year was the first year doing it, and I bartended, every day. We were only open on the weekend nights, and I brought in a ton of craft beer out there in cans to just be stocked in their customer reach in fridge, thinking like, hey, there's not really anybody else out there in the Beeville area doing it. So if I bring in 50 different, brands, I'll probably, we'll get known for it. I'll sell a shit ton of to-go beer. Well, that never happened. And, but what I did learn from it is if I have a story for the brewery, I can sell it.
Yeah.
And the one beer, even though it was the most expensive, but the one beer I could sell no matter what was Underground Beer Lab. Every single time somebody would be like, what's this one? It's a $9 can, and because they're expensive, but the story every single time was they're hard to get. They don't produce a lot every single week, and they're some of the best IPAs that you're going to get out of anybody in Syracuse. Great, I'll take it. If I had a story for the beer, I could sell it no matter what. And
Absolutely.
so I found we were talking a little bit about this with like Rockney and Kevin, and that is breweries that focus on specific styles versus breweries that just kind of make anything and everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, it's the Underground Beer Lab is an interesting one. They're almost taking after the model of, say, like the Alchemist and Heady Topper, where it's rare, so you got to get it while it's hot, and that works, supply and demand. That's a
Yeah.
perfect example of it. But you're getting back to the story. You're absolutely right, and every brewery has its story. So it's our job as a distributor to actually tell that story and actually make that sale. But yeah, there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the liquid really shows for itself. So what I do when I go into a place like similar to your situation, where you have a place where you have a lot of beers that maybe people haven't seen before, sample. I don't know if you're able to do that, but sample
Yeah.
people. Oh, I like this. I'm going to buy it now. Or sell individuals. Like a lot of our retail stores are selling a 4-pack. Like, do I want to spend $20 on this? Willow or this Big Alice Pilsner that I've never seen before? Maybe not. I don't know about you, but I have a bunch of 3-packs shoved into the back of my beer fridge that have been there for a really long time. Still singles, so people come in. That's what we do on our website.
Yeah.
Hey, I like this, and the next time they come in the door, they're going to buy more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was it's a lot of fun. I love the bar world. On the liquor side and on the beer side. It is a lot of fun. And yeah, it's like I like that almost better than food.
Yeah.
But it is challenging, even out there. Like it's not a craft customer out there by any stretch of the imagination. And even a lot of people, I'm surprised how many of them who show up out there have never heard of Utica Club. And we've got that on draft. It's like the only beer that we have on draft out there because it'll last forever. And people will show up and they're like, "Oh, what's that? Utica Club? I've never heard of that before." It's like, you've never heard of Utica Club? I'm like, well, that's local craft beer at its finest.
This kind of sounds like we sell at the Syracuse Regional Market. So every Saturday we're there. We have a little booth there, and we sample and sell. And that's not necessarily our target demographic, but I love going there because the people that show up, they're just they're walking by, they're getting their fruits and their vegetables. They go, oh, hey, look, beer, like, let's go. There's some samples. Let's go sample. And they come in there, and they sip it like, ooh, this is really good, and they end up going home with a 4-pack or an 8-pack, whatever it is. But you get a lot of honest feedback because on our website, we get a very specific crowd. These are beer geeks. They are coming onto the site and they know exactly what they want. They know exactly what to expect in a certain style or whatnot, and they're super critical. You go to the Syracuse Regional Market and they could, one person comes up, they try beer, oh, this is terrible. And the next person comes up, this is the best beer I've ever had. And so you get, honest opinions, and I love it because it kind of gives me a feel for the general public and what they actually want. So you probably experience a similar demographic coming out to the farms as I do at the market.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I carry Leaf out there for hard seltzer and cans because they have a farm license. So there's only so much that you can get. And so we carry Leaf, and there's 4 or 5 customers out there that I couldn't pay them to drink a can of Leaf.
Yeah.
Now, but they all want either White Claw or Mike's Hard Seltzers or whatever the national brand is, and they're always asking for that. And I think and we were talking a little bit earlier about craft breweries that are struggling in New York, across the country, but specifically here in Central New York, they need to be more approachable. They have to there is not a large enough audience that cares enough about craft beer. They care about alcohol, they care about drinking beer or hard seltzer or whatever the case is, but they genuinely do not care enough about craft beer or where it comes from.
Yeah. And that's kind of where that's where we come in. We kind of need to raise awareness, So when the beer geeks come to our website and they know exactly what they want, they're going to go to their IPA category and get whatever they need. But our job is also, we have an educational aspect. You know, it's like, well, what are you doing? Like, why should I buy from you and not the, you know, downtown, you know, the mom and pop shop down the street for, you know, Colorado beer. So we need to be able to educate the consumers on, you know, local dollars, keeping your dollars local, but also, you know, just here's the story. You know, it comes back to the story. This is Big Alice's story. This is Rock's story. This is, you know, whomever else story. And being able to get the consumer to think about what they're actually doing with their dollars. And to be able to raise New York beer is kind of our main goal. So let me throw out a couple numbers at you if I can do this right now. 4% of New Yorkers drink New York beer, where the countrywide average is about 13.1. So we are way behind, and we have the second most breweries in the entire country.
13% of the U.S. population drinks New York beer?
No, sorry. So if you go to say, on average, each state has 13.1%. So you go to Oregon, it's like 28 or something like that. You go to Vermont, it's like 12. I'm just kind of making up numbers now, but New York is 4. So we're way behind. So the national average is for their state to consume their own beers is 13.1. So if we were able to go from 4 to say 14, like that is a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah,
and that's going to stay here in the state. It's going to help New York. It's going to help everybody. It's going to help these little guys. So that's kind of our mission, to kind of do that kind of thing. And that takes education. It takes you know, educating the consumer, and that's hard, you know. So we do it one person at a time at the regional market, and hopefully Drink NY Craft kind of helps too. You know, we educate a lot. I think we could do a better job, and I, you know, have a lot of ambitious plans for the website to kind of be more than just a marketplace. You know, we want to provide content, we want to provide information and things like that, and I think that will start moving the needle. But our mission is to get New Yorkers to drink more New York beer. If we could move that 4% up to 10 in the next couple of years, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, there aren't many really New York brands that have ever been as hyped as much as like some of the other ones, you know. I mean, I think of like the specific beers of like Heady Topper, you know.
Vermont, yeah.
I mean, even to this day, it's such a massive deal. It's really not that big of a deal to get a Heady Topper any longer, but restaurants and, you know, bottle shops and all that kind of stuff still, like, if they're going to make a post about beer, it's going to be about the time that, you know, the 5 times a year they get Heady Topper.
Brand recognition.
Yeah,
exactly. And who's to say? I mean, is Heady Topper? It was one of the first New England style IPAs. I mean, they basically built the entire category, and they were the first ones to do the, you know, kind of in the can too. That was like, wait, what is this hazy thing? What is it? No, that's an off.
Yeah,
that's an off thing. Like, no, and wait, it's in a can.
Right.
So they created an entire new category. They were in the right place at the right time. But in my opinion, you know, Underground Beer Lab, you know, all these places are making beers that are just as good, if not better, than Heady Topper.
Yeah. Nicole and I were talking about this earlier in the car today, actually, and we were talking about like craft beer in our area and why it's, you know, deteriorating. And I was saying the only one that's really doing an exceptional job, who I think has a great vibe about it, or I'm blanking on the word, where they can post something and people will just go crazy, is Prison City.
Oh yeah.
You know, and her question was, well, what are they doing that's so different and why? You know.
And again, I think Prison City, you know, they were at the right place at the right time. I think they won an award, and I'm forgetting which one it is now. But they were one of the first hazies to win an award in New York State. It's like, oh, what is this Prison City? So then, you know, Auburn became a destination, where they had their tap room. So I mean, I love their beer. You know, it's very good stuff, and you know, right place, right time, right story, right environment, and anyone can flourish. I mean, lots of people are making good New England style IPAs nowadays. Yeah. I tend to find myself going back towards, you know, something like this a little more, but that's just me.
Yeah, especially as I get older, I'm the same. Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges for Third Space is really just kind of getting out there and kind of selling the restaurant or the bar owner on, hey, bring on this brand that you haven't heard of before. Um, I mean, and I know there's a fair amount. Well, in our immediate area, there's obviously the two big distributors, but and there's is it McGrath? What's the name?
McCrate, they're
McGrath.
they're a TJ Sheehan company.
Oh, they are. Okay. So really, it's you. Is that pretty much the way they are?
Well, I mean, in Onondaga County, there's us and basically TJ Sheehan. So there are others too. I mean, others kind of everyone kind of
Yeah.
folds in different ways, but those are the two big choices in this area that
Yeah.
before us. So we're up against the big guys. I mean, they've been in business forever. It's kind of a David and Goliath type story.
Yeah.
But it's something we're ready to take on. We're more of a mission based company. You know, we're not we're not out there to change the world, but we're very passionate about this. And it's just get New Yorkers to drink more New York beer. And, it's very simple. It's very easy, and I think people can get behind it. People are getting behind it.
Yeah.
We just need to blast it out.
Yeah. Well, if a craft, well, I'd imagine you probably don't have too much issue with supply of beer. I'd imagine a lot of the local breweries are probably trying to flock to you and get as much of their beer in your hands as possible.
We've had some people do reach out to us. The issue is not on the supplier side. The bottleneck is more on the retailer side. As I was saying, they don't necessarily know who we are. They don't necessarily know the brands, but people are flocking to us. The one problem we do have, though, is sometimes these little guys don't have enough capacity. Underground Beer Lab is a good example. I mean, we don't distribute them in traditional retail, but if we did, I mean, they're a two-barrel system. They are working on that, but I don't think they would be able to, meet the demand. So sometimes we run out of beer, and that's not good. As a distributor, you never want to run out of beer. But also, these are one-offs too. So, like, is this your flagship? Is this your one-off? Get it before it's gone. So we're in a niche where it's a little different. So, it's not like we're going to get a dedicated tap line of, say, an Oktoberfest. Like these breweries are doing one-offs, but it's more of telling the story of that particular brand. This is this particular brewery. This is what they're doing. They make this really good flagship. We'll have this year round, and here's some other ones. But sometimes volume is an issue.
Yeah. So if a restaurant owner, bar owner, somebody is listening and they want to, get into contact and open an account and buy beer, how do they do that?
Yeah, thirdspacedistro.com is the email address. There's a little thing on there that you can go to, but they can always get in touch with me, Chad at thirdspacedistro.com. We're here to service everybody, man. We're pretty excited to get all the beers out.
Awesome. Well, Chad, thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And anybody who is listening, reach out to Third Space and support local. Pick up all that New York State craft beer and get it on your tap line.
New York.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Anthony.